SCE is how they have called it as. It's actually Space Odyssey, but instead of just the A in space, they put it as SPAICE, just to give it that artificial intelligence meaning to that. So, the article is by Tamreen Sultana at Hyderabad. The world, it seems, is not enough for artificial intelligence. As the race to dominate AI or artificial intelligence intensifies, the pressure is driving increasingly ambitious ideas, including proposals to take data centers beyond Earth itself. So, among those pushing this line of thinking is Elon Musk, who argues that hyperscalers need vast data centers that demand enormous amounts of electricity, land, and cooling, while also raising environmental concerns. So, in response, tech giants now envision a vast constellation of satellites functioning as orbital data centers, which are powered primarily by unlimited solar energy in space. So, the stuff of sci fi. Is it so? So, skepticism, of course, remains. Large cloud operators are not fully convinced that enough launch capacity exists to support data center scale infrastructure in orbit. So, rockets are expensive, schedules are tight, space is already crowded. So, Musk keeps returning to the same point, which is solar power. So, the solar opportunity is underestimated. He has said, arguing that energy that is captured in space can bypass the limitations facing terrestrial grids. So, in orbit, sunlight is constant, unfiltered by weather or night cycles. And in a recent podcast, he even went further to say that claiming space would become the most cheapest place to put AI data centers within about 3 years. So, whether that timeline proves optimistic is unclear. But the direction of thinking has undeniably changed. So, if you strip away the hype and a space based data center, it becomes conceptually simple. It performs the same functions as one on Earth: storing data, executing computation, and the whole difference is going to lie in architecture. So instead of a single massive facility packed with servers, compute, and storage would be broken into modules mounted on satellites and connected through high speed optical links. So together they would behave like a distributed cloud, just one that happens to orbit the planet. So, the pressure that is driving this rethink is already visible on the ground. So, as Anand Raj Gopalan, former CEO of D-Works, puts it, with AI, the more commute that you have, the better your models become. But on Earth, he says, money is no longer the same problem, the main problem. Land acquisition is slow. Regulatory approvals are complex. Power availability is uneven. And cooling and water usage have become flashpoints. So, a single hyperscale data center can draw anywhere between 100 and 300 megawatts of power, roughly equivalent to what a mid sized city would consume. So, some AI focused facilities are now being designed at 500 megawatts or more. So, globally, data centers already use an estimated 250 to 400 terawatt hours of electricity each year, accounting for roughly 1 to 2% of total power consumption. So, heat is the hidden villain in this story. Around 80% of the power fed into advanced chips is expelled as heat. So Gopalan notes that cooling alone can consume about 30 to 40% of a facility's total energy, often requiring enormous volumes of water. So add local resistance, grid strain, and environmental clearances, and new projects can take years to come online. So for companies building AI models, the constraint today is not capital, says Ronak Kumar Samantri, who is a founder of Take Me to Space. It is how quickly you can get compute online. So, from that perspective, space begins to look less exotic and more practical. So, orbit does remove some constraints, but it introduces new ones. Launch costs have historically run into tens of thousands of dollars per kilogram, though rockets such as Starship and New Glenn could bring that down to a few $100s. So, computing hardware must be shielded from radiation, adding weight and cost. So, cooling is also technically complex since heat must be conducted and radiated away in a vacuum rather than dissipated through air or water. So, cybersecurity risks, however, they remain broadly similar. Whether servers sit in a warehouse or they circle the earth, the same encryption standards and the communication protocols will apply. The bigger environmental concerns will focus on launch emissions and the growing issue of orbital debris. So, supporters argue that once deployed, orbital data centers draw no power from Earth, they require no water for cooling, and they will release no waste heat into the atmosphere. So, this will potentially offset their launch footprint over time. So, India is not leading the charge into orbital commuting, but it is not entirely absent either. Regulatory pathways have been relatively smooth according to industry players, though capital always, as always, remains a major constraint. So, four major US technology firms, Microsoft, Meta Platforms, Amazon, Alphabet, all of them plan to spend up to about $670 billion in 2026 on just AI infrastructure alone. So, by contrast, India's budget allocated 1000 crore rupees to the Indian AI mission for the 2026 to 27 fiscal. So Gopalan therefore believes that India's advantage may lie in timing. So as launch costs fall, orbital infrastructure matures, the late movers could still carve out niches in specialized AI workloads and space linked computing. So, space based data centers will not replace terrestrial ones anytime soon. Latency sensitive services must stay close to users, but back-end AI training can tolerate delays of seconds. So, any shift will be gradual, shaped by economics, engineering reliability, and also energy realities. Space, which was once a novelty, is now firmly part of that conversation. So, here's a ground reality for you. Consumption land 10 megawatts needs about 10 MW, needs about 10 acres. 100 MW and above would need 10 to 50 acres. Power sees data centers used about 0.5 to 1% of India's electricity in 2025. This was projected to 2 to 3% by 2030, and the demand projected at 60 TWh by 2030. Talking about water, about 25.5 million liters per MW a year. A 100 MW facility would use about 8 lakh liters a day. So this demand is projected at 358 billion liters by 2030. Now, if we're talking about projects in JV, is an equal partnership to build IGW by 2030. In Vizag, it is $15 billion investment over 5 years, which is from 2026 to 2030. And all this for an AI data center campus. In Hyderabad, you see that 48 MW Green Data Center is under development. Other sites are in Chennai, Navi Mumbai, and Noida as well. The India facilities, there are about 132 operational ones, 81 to 84 Z in pipeline as of the early 2026. Now the capacity for this is that there is about 1.5 GW operational by end 2025. Let's move on to another article now, which is about intelligence that is unchanged in biotech. So this is all about AI, how it unlocks complex biology. So many biological ideas were abandoned not because they were wrong, but because tools to test them did not exist. So AI has changed all of that. It has enabled scientists to revisit complex hypotheses just using vast data sets. However, fully simulated digital human twins, while conceptually powerful, remain too costly and complex also to be practical at scale for now. So, an article by Siddhartha Gattini at Hyderabad brings us more of this knowledge. Artificial intelligence is quietly rewriting the rules of biotechnology. It is shifting the grind of scientific trial and error from crowded laboratories to lines of code. So, what once demanded years of wet lab experimentation can now be explored through simulations. It allows researchers to test ideas at a speed and a scale that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago. So, this shift is most evident in drug discovery, where progress, once reliant on testing tens of thousands of molecules in the lab, is now becoming increasingly computational. So, AI models, which are trained on biological, chemical, and genetic data, can predict also promising compounds early. You can filter out failures before they reach wet labs, and also compressing years of experimentation into days or weeks. So AI's strongest impact is in early stage drug discovery, where it's going to help identify biological targets, predict protein binding, and optimize compounds for safety and stability. So its use is also expanding into genomics, precision medicine, and pharmaceutical manufacturing, improving DNA analysis, therapy, matching, yields, and quality control. So according to Kaniganti Ramarao, who's Chief Technology Officer at Aganita Cognitive Solutions, AI is no longer a peripheral tool in biotechnology, but it is a necessity. As drug resistant bacteria rise, diseases also grow more complex. Precision medicine becomes mainstream. Traditional methods struggle to keep pace. So, in some areas, we will be focused to use AI because there is no other way. Beyond infectious diseases, AI promises personalized therapies which are tailored to genetics, but regulation lags. So the science is moving faster than the process. Ramarao notes that adding that trial reforms will shape adoption. So fully autonomous AI drug design remains unlikely, with human judgment and safety oversight essential. So, in practice, AI acts as a powerful collaborator, rapidly analyzing vast data sets and also generating insights at unprecedented speed. Experts further add that AI's ability to narrow thousands of candidate molecules to a manageable few has transformed drug optimization. It has helped reduce toxicity, it will improve manufacturability and also maintain multiple backup options. Earlier, carrying alternators was just too expensive, as Ramarao says. Now you can afford to have several similar molecules ready in case one fails. So, despite India producing globally competitive scientists and hosting strong research institutions, commercial support for high risk, innovative biotechnology remains limited. So, many firms continue to prioritize licensing existing drugs or also manufacturing established formulations, while deeper investments in AI driven discovery remain cautious and also exploratory. So, Ramarao argues that the biggest barrier to AI's wider impact is not scientific capability, but it is outdated processes. Clinical trials, regulatory submissions, and approval systems were designed long before AI driven pipelines emerged, leaving no standard mechanisms to evaluate AI generated evidence. Progress is faster only in areas like cancer, rare diseases, and terminal illnesses, where regulatory flexibility allows innovation. So, as AI continues to tame biological complexity, biotechnology itself is being reshaped. No longer the exclusive domain of biologists, but is an increasingly interdisciplinary, free field driven by engineers, mathematicians, and also machines that amplify human intelligence rather than replace it. So, this was one segment for you. We'll be continuing again at 8 o'clock. Take a short